Yang Berhormat Datuk Mohamad bin Haji Alamin, Deputy Minister of Education to Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, President KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Paramjit Singh, President, Malaysian Association of Private Colleges and Universities, Associate Professor Elijah Sohan Mohan, President, National Association of Private Education Institutions, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon to welcome you to this year's National Education and Learning Summit 2022. On behalf of the organizers and partners, I would like to express our appreciation and thank the Deputy Minister of Education to Yang Berhormat Datuk Mohamad bin Haji Alamin for his gracious presence here today, despite a very busy schedule and duties in the Parliament. Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 2 years, the pandemic has created chaos and uncertainty in our daily lives. Now, with the economy opening up again, schools are going to follow suit. Of course, in this new normal, schools must follow very strict SOPs to ensure the safety of the students and staff. Class sizes will be reduced to ensure social distancing. The rest of the school year will be a different experience for everyone. But the opening up will also allow for normalcy to return to the lives of our students. The theme of this year's conference, Revitalizing Education Today to Fill the Employment Needs of Tomorrow, could not have been timelier. Our education system will always have a crucial role in preparing the young to meet the challenges of tomorrow, not only for the workplace, but for the development of necessary skill sets required for their personal journey in life. Decision-making, resilience, dynamism, leadership, and other cognitive abilities. Through the struggle of determining a means forward, approaches to education have to be revitalized to ensure strong fundamentals for the delivery of high-quality education by returning the joy and intrigue of teaching and learning to all parties involved, for knowledge remains key to success. Ladies and gentlemen, the success of this conference has always been based on a mix of your willingness to share your ideas, insights, and learn from each other, coupled with stimulating ideas from national-level speakers. I am sure Datuk's address, Yang Berhormat Datuk's address will no doubt provide that catalyst for us to reflect not only on education context, but also broader societal factors that contribute to shaping the future of employment for the youth. Thank you for your support and presence here today. I hope you will have an enjoyable and productive conference. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon. Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, President, KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Yang Berbahagia Dato Jessie Tang, Director, KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Yang Berbahagia Dato Paramjit Singh, President, Malaysian Association of Private Colleges and Universities. Associate Professor Elijah Sohan Mohan, President, National Association of Private Education Institutions. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I would first like to thank Tan Sri Michael Yeo, Datuk Jessie Tang and the KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific for this kind invitation and allowing me to address delegates of the 2022 Malaysian Education and Learning Summit. It gives me a great pleasure to be here with a room full of educators and individuals passionate for the pursuit of knowledge and development of our young people. The theme of this year's summit, Revitalizing Education Today to Fuel the Employment Needs of Tomorrow, aptly captures the broad goals of the Ministry of Education to prepare our young not only the working world, but also life as a whole. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are living in exciting times. In the past 2 years, the pandemic has taken a huge toll on the progress of education, disturbing regular semesters as well as delaying the commencement of studies for many. To this day, it is uncertain if we are truly in the clear whether further disruptions are expected, as it depends on the rate of mutation in the virus, leading to the various variants we see, and whether the vaccines and their subsequent boosters will hold up to scrutiny. Such things are beyond our control. This had led to difficult decisions by the ministry to take on learning online in the past 2 years. The ministry has the safety of our young first and foremost in mind, which is why we undertook this decision to suspend physical classes on and off in the past few years, inshallah. Yet, at the same time, our teachers and students have admittedly struggled with the delivery of online learning, especially in areas with poor internet connectivity coverage, like my state Sabah, maybe Datuk Jessie Tang knows, and also Sarawak, and some rural areas in the Peninsula Malaysia too. Even if the internet speeds up the best in the world, learning virtually has proven less effective than physical learning, in my humble opinion. As I'm sharing this space with fellow educators, I'm sure you are very familiar with the silence despite having dozens of students in the virtual classroom. Very few, if not none at all, turn on their cameras, nor responding audibly. It is not too difficult to guess what happens behind the screens, where students are likely doing something else, merely sign on to the class visually to mark their attendance, but are not signed on to the class mentally. As parents are at work and students essentially have 24 hours access to the internet and electronic devices that can be used for non-academic purposes, I am sure you can figure out on your own why the ministry is most keen on bringing our students back to the physical classroom where teachers can keep a watchful eye on the academic development of our students more effectively. The focus here is to ensure the delivery of quality education. Therefore, I am pleased to report that after several months of uncertainty due to the resurgence of the number of COVID cases, and with the number of cases stabilizing in recent weeks, the ministry has decided to fully reopen our schools to allow students to return to physical learning since March 21st, slightly more than a week ago. For the first time, our Year 1 students, the batch of 2022-2023, have begun their schooling lives in March instead of the usual in January. Up to 3 million primary school students have returned to face-to-face learning. Our secondary school students will follow suit next week on April 4th. At the moment, they are still on a mix of virtual learning and rotations, depending on the school and age groups. However, I am pleased to report that by next week, they will be all returning to face-to-face learning without the need for rotations, inshallah. Interestingly, it seems that the anxiety is not on the students, but parents, some of whom remain hesitant to send their children to school. As a parent myself, I understand this dilemma. However, I can assure you that our schools and teachers are well prepared in keeping our children as safe as possible by taking the necessary steps and SOPs to ensure cleanliness and providing a practical learning environment that minimizes the spread of virus. In our joint effort between educators, students, and parents to keep our children safe, I urge parents who have yet to get their children vaccinated to do so as soon as possible. As of 28 March, vaccination rates for the 5 to 12 years old have reached 40% in this country. Although students will be allowed back to school premises regardless of whether or not they are vaccinated. We hope that the parents of the unvaccinated will take their children for the necessary doses as soon as possible, as it is their sons and daughters whose safety could be compromised. And no child should need to be learning in fear. Should they not be vaccinated, there will be hesitation to sending them physically to school, and that in turn will cause them to be left behind in their studies and developing meaningful friendships. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, coming back to the theme of this summit, certainly one of the main objectives of education is to prepare our young and even the old for the workforce. However, even before COVID turned our lives upside down, the world has been undergoing rapid changes that have been brought about by the rapid pace of technological advancements. This has led implications on the global labor market. In response, Malaysian education providers have attempted to be up to date with industry requirements in terms of skill sets and expertise. Otherwise, we could risk missing out due to the digital divide. A study by Randstad, a global recruitment company, found that Malaysian industries are facing hiring challenges due to a mismatch in qualified talent against growing digital ambitions. This is happening despite the workforce being educated as candidates lack specific expertise to bridge the necessary skill gaps. This is perhaps evidence of our need to step up our reskilling programs and for educators, presenting us the urgent need to consider the appropriate and relevant teaching syllabus more carefully. Interestingly, the study also found an undersupply of high-skilled jobs, causing people to take on jobs they are overqualified for. While we always emphasize that being highly qualified would bring greater salaries, we seem to have overlooked the availability of certain jobs to match the qualification of these graduates. Malaysia aspires to become a center for investment, whereby we hope to attract the world's top multinational companies, convincing them to set up operations here. As captains of various industries are present here in the summit, I urge them to create and develop job functions that are suitable for our high-trained graduates. Otherwise, these graduates will inevitably find work in other countries, contributing to the brain drain. I would welcome feedback on what is needed in Malaysian education to create an attractive business environment. This is an area I believe more transparency, frankness, and honesty is needed between the government and the various industries to develop an appropriate education policy. We have always emphasized the importance of education, of how businesses need to work together with educators to devise relevant and up-to-date syllabi. I hope this continues to be the case and implore businesses not only to see to their immediate needs, but also the bigger picture in the time to come. Apart from the readiness of head knowledge, there's also need to consider the non-human aspects of preparedness. The setting up of effective internship, apprenticeship, or mentorship programs need to be made a top priority to provide the upcoming workforce pragmatic work experience, but also to show them the know-how to enable them to build upon a business achievements. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, while much attention is focused on head knowledge, what is almost completely overlooked by educators is the lack of soft skills. The amount of learning and interactions that have predominantly been taking place virtually the past couple of years, despite some of these advantages, can also be problematic, as we could see more graduates lacking the soft skills that are necessary in the workplace. Soft skills that are normally attained through extracurricular means. These are skills that develop outside the classroom, yet alone a virtual one. This risks putting skills that we have taken for granted, such as effective communication, negotiation, organization and planning, people management, and most important of all, leadership, which could all be lacking in the future among future graduates. For this reason, I would like once again to implore those who are still refusing vaccines and disallowing their children to return to physical education to think about the consequences for your action and think about the bigger picture, as your children could be left behind if they are not allowed to return to physical education. Virtual learning, for all its advantages, cannot provide soft skill development. Educators, too, must see the importance of these co-curricular activities rather than treating it as a mere requirement by the ministry for each student, and allow students to pursue these interests naturally, wholeheartedly, and genuinely. It is for these reasons that the ministry has allowed the continuation of sports and co-curricular programs face-to-face since the 21st of March. It is hoped that school will once again become not only a place for book knowledge, but a place for all forms of learning, ones that come from play, causes, interest, and fellowship. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, Yang Mohamad, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, our Prime Minister, strongly urges the members of Cabinet to use Bahasa Malaysia in public event. As such, it is an honor for me, as a Deputy Minister of Education Malaysia, to observe such a call. Let me speak a little bit in Bahasa Malaysia this afternoon. Hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia sentiasa mencari, mengkaji dan menilai kaedah tata cara terbaik untuk menambah baik suasana belajar bagi menjamin aras dan kualiti pendidikan yang tinggi. Dalam usaha berterusan ini dan kita menghadapi isu yang agak serius. Saya berkongsi sedikit maklumat dengan tuan-tuan dan puan tentang isu kekurangan guru-guru di seluruh negara kita. Oleh itu, melalui pendekatan yang telah pun diambil oleh Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, kita telah memperkenalkan satu program, iaitu program pengambilan guru secara one-off sebanyak 18,000 orang guru baru-baru ini. Ya. Dan sehingga 28 Mac 2022, Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia telah menempatkan seramai 13,255 guru di seluruh negara, manakala baki 515 akan ditempatkan mulai pada 11 April lagi, dan baki saja keseluruhannya lagi. Kementerian akan menjalankan pengambilan melalui Contract of Service COS, di mana guru-guru yang tidak mempunyai ikhtisas diberi peluang untuk menjadi guru, dan kita akan pilih di negeri-negeri yang agak kritikal kekurangan guru itu. Dan saya boleh sebutkan antara negeri yang kritikal ialah negeri Johor, negeri Sarawak dan negeri Sabah. Dan insya-Allah Kementerian Pendidikan akan berusaha sebaik mungkin untuk mengatasi masalah-masalah yang sedang dihadapi ini. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya kasih sekalian, kementerian juga akan menyediakan program-program lain untuk melihat tentang isu-isu yang dibangkitkan oleh para netizen kita. Antaranya isu beg berat, dan kementerian akan menyediakan almari khas di sekolah-sekolah rendah, khususnya yang menjalani 2 sesi untuk membantu menangani isu yang beg sekolah yang berat yang saya sebutkan tadi. Kadar dan nilai nutrisi makanan yang dijual di kantin-kantin sekolah juga kita akan terus pantau, dan kita akan pastikan ianya juga akan ditambah baik. Apa yang saya sebutkan tadi, tuan-tuan, hanyalah sebahagian kecil daripada usaha-usaha yang dilaksanakan oleh kementerian bagi memastikan para pelajar diberi peluang yang terbaik dan secukupnya untuk berjaya dalam pelajaran mereka. Kita berharap dengan usaha-usaha ini, mereka akan menjadi modal insan yang bukan sahaja dapat menyumbang semula kepada negara tercinta, tetapi juga akan menjadi cemerlang di pentas antarabangsa, insya-Allah. Adalah menjadi harapan saya untuk terus melihat rakyat Malaysia, dan kita bersama-sama melihat rakyat Malaysia berjaya di merata dunia, dan kita boleh berbangga kerana kita tahu bahawa sistem pendidikan Malaysia inilah yang telah membolehkan ini semua berlaku. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude my speech, I would like to emphasize that filling the employment needs of tomorrow first requires us to revitalize our approach to education. Recognizing its importance alone is not enough. Greater effort is required by all, educators, businesses, parents, or even friends and family, who all need to play a part in educating our young. We must not see as a chore, a ranking and certificate, or a form of rubber stamp that is required by our young to make money, but as a necessary and enjoyable part of one's life journey in this continuous road of learning to become a better person. With that, I thank KSI once again for giving me this opportunity to address you today, and look forward to the deliberations made at today's summit. I wish you all a fruitful and productive discussion. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dan selamat menyambut bulan Ramadan. Terima kasih.